Good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today about the work of the Open Spaces Society on the protection of parks and open spaces. I'm Nicola Hodgson and have been a case officer with the Society for over 20 years. I led the Society's work on the Commons Act and have worked on various bills as they go through Parliament. Most recently, the Environment Act, which includes a new role for local nature recovery strategies that have the potential to deliver benefits on open space. I deal with cases from members, individuals and communities and work with other organisations, including the National Federation of Parks, the National Trust, CPRE, various NGOs, local councils and many others. My involvement with parks and open spaces has included working in 2001 on the government's Urban Green Space Task Force project. I recently raised concerns about the recent planning and levelling up white papers, and I'm currently on the Natural England Advisory Board looking at the updating of access to natural green spaces. I will cover briefly the history of the Society, our current areas of work, which include neighbourhood planning, local green space, and then briefly about listing land as a community asset. The Society was founded as the Commons Preservation Society in 1865, principally around London. The Society came into existence at the end of the enclosure of land and the start of the growing demand for development and the conflicting need for land for recreational use. We helped to secure the Metropolitan Commons Act, which excluded from development any common within the Metropolitan Police District, and was hugely significant. Octavia Hill and Robert Hunter, who later founded the National Trust, formed groups and raised funds to fight lawsuits. The Society took on rights of way at the end of the 19th century, and we won the right to walk and ride on all commons in urban districts in 1925, and a provision to prevent enclosure of commons without ministerial consent. But there was no general right of access on commons until 2000. Today, we aim to protect, increase, enhance and champion common land, village greens, open spaces and public rights of way in England and Wales, and the public's right to enjoy them. We are consulted on all applications for works. We help members to register new greens, we challenge government policies which threaten our open spaces and work with local authorities to keep all rights of way open and accessible to the public. Voluntary registration of a green is something that all landowners can do to protect their land for future generations. Saving Lost Commons is a project that the Society is involved with at the moment, and there is more information about this project on our website. In 2020, the Society launched open space charters for England and Wales. As a result of our growing concerns about the lack of provision, protection and long-term funding of open spaces, it included asks for government and actions for local authorities and the public. It's on our website if you want to have a look. In 2021, we launched our Grant a Green campaign, and a previous photograph there was a photograph of a green that had been voluntarily registered. We launched a toolkit to encourage local authorities, parish and town councils to protect open space by means of voluntary registration of the land as a town or village green under the Commons Act 2006. It's a fast-track process which really just involves showing proof of ownership of land. There are further details on our website. The Society also launched a local green space toolkit. There are 3 handbooks which are on our website: How to Win Local Green Space Through Neighbourhood Plans, Community Assets and Protecting Open Space, and the Local Green Space Designation. This area at Longbridge was protected as a local green space through their neighbourhood plan. I've got a few slides now about neighbourhood planning in general, which some of you may be familiar with, just so that the slides are complete for future reference. So I'm just looking at the conditions for making a plan, what goes in a plan. So such things as looking at sites of local importance, character and location, and highlighting areas to be protected from development. So in the Midlands, here are some examples of where neighbourhood plans have been made. For instance, at Stapen Hill, 15 open spaces were protected as local green space through the neighbourhood plan. In Solihull, Hampton in Arden, 11 areas were protected as local green space, although they have put a caveat on their policy that says that the areas of land must be larger than 1.5 hectares. Coventry, Leicester, East Northants also have neighbourhood plans in place. So we have the process of plan making, community engagement, through to referendum and making of the plan. So in more detail, the local green space designation itself arises from the National Planning Policy Framework and allows protection of local green space that's important to communities. Once designated as a local green space, the land is subject to the same strong development restrictions as green belt. It's not all plain sailing though. Given a couple examples of where there are some potential issues. There is also criteria which must be satisfied. It's not just possible to say that you want land to be designated. You have to satisfy the criteria. The land needs to be reasonably close to the community it serves, demonstrably special to a local community, and local in character. However, there's no prescribed process, and so it can be difficult for lay groups to access. Some councils allow submission of areas through the local plan process, and other sites can be submitted through the neighbourhood plan process. Again, conflicts emerging between neighbourhood and emerging neighbourhood plan and planning applications. So still cases going through courts about these issues. The Oxford and Cambridge Expressway, government has now backtracked, but that was a huge issue for concern because no reference had been made to the neighbourhood plan for the government's preferred route. All planning guidance is now online, and unfortunately the guidance about local green space is fairly sparse and really just quotes the wording of the Act. For completeness, another way of protecting local green space is by having it listed as a community asset. So I've left a few slides here to show that process. Once protected, the land remains listed for 5 years, and it can be considered as a material consideration for planning purposes. There's various then requirements on an owner if they wish to dispose of the asset. So it would be lovely for you to support the work of the Society. We have local correspondence in many areas in the Midlands, including Warwickshire, Birmingham, Sutton Coldfield, Solihull, Harborough, Shropshire, Staffordshire. We have an interactive map on our website so that you can locate where the local correspondents are. We would invite you to join the Society to help support our work, and there is more information on our website. Thank you for listening.